Hello and welcome. In this video we're going to be looking at histograms and everything that you need to know about GCSE level histograms. So there are three different types of questions you can get on histograms at GCSE level. So I'm going to call them type 1, type 2 and type 3. So type 1 is where you've been given a table and you've been asked to complete a histogram. Okay, so there's a table and all you need to do is complete the histogram. Type 2 is the reverse of that. You're given a histogram and you're asked to complete a table and then maybe work out some answers using that information in the table. And then there's type 3, which is the rarest of the three types. This is where you've got an incomplete table and an incomplete histogram, and what you need to do is complete both the table and the histogram. I think type 1 is probably the most common type you will see, then type 2, and then type 3 is the rarest that you will see at GCSE level. So let's have a look at this question. So table gives us information about the time in hours some students took to complete a piece of coursework. So we have a table and use this information to draw a histogram. So we're going to be using the table to complete a histogram. So this is type 1. So if we're going to complete the table, the first thing we need to do is to have the formulas for histograms. So the formulas that we need are frequency density is equal to frequency divided by class width. And then if we rearrange this formula, we get frequency is equal to frequency density multiplied by class width. Now we need to add a bit more to this table before we can start drawing the histogram. So there are two columns we must add, and these are called class width, just call it CW, and frequency density. Okay, so the class width is the difference between 0 and the 20. So 20 take away 0 is 20. 30 take away 20 is 10. 55 take away 30 is 25. Now, frequency density is frequency divided by class width. So that's 30 divided by 20, which is 1.5. 40 divided by 10 is 4. 25 divided by 25 is 1. So these are my frequency densities. Now I need to have a frequency density. I need to mark out the numbers on the frequency density axes. So frequency density will go on the y-axis of the histogram. Now the maximum value is 4 and I must start at 0. So I think I'm going to go 0, 1, 2, 3 and 4. And now I'm ready to plot the histogram. So the first bar goes from 0 to 20. And we don't plot the 30 or the 20, we plot the frequency density. It's got a frequency density of 1.5. So it starts at 0, goes up to 20, and has a frequency density of 1.5, which is here. So it looks something like this. And then we just make a box. So that's my first bar in the histogram drawn. My second bar goes from 20 to 30. And has a height of 4. Make sure you use a ruler when you're doing this in your exam. And then finally we've got 30 to 55 and a frequency density of 1. So something like that. And that there is your completed histogram for 3 marks. Next question. The histogram gives information about the time in minutes 135 students spent on the internet last night. So we've got time across the x-axis and then frequency density on the y-axis. use the histogram to complete the table. So that's type 2. Use the histogram to complete the table. Okay, so the first thing we need to do to complete the table is we need to add in our two columns, which are class width and frequency density. Now the class widths we can work out from the time intervals here. So 0 to 10, so 10 take away 0 is 10, 15 take away 10 is 5, 30 take away 15 is 15, and 50 take away 30 is 20. The next thing you can do is you can fill in the frequency densities, because we have the histogram drawn and we can just read off the values. So the bar that goes from 0 to 10, which is this bar here, has a frequency density of 2. The bar from 10 to 15 has a frequency density of 3.6. The bar that goes from 15 to 30 has a frequency density of 3. And the bar that goes from 30 to 50 has a frequency density of 2.6. Okay, and now all we need to do is work out the frequency. So that's the second formula that I had. So frequency density equals frequency divided by class width. That's your first formula. And then if we rearrange that by taking the class width to this side, we get frequency equals frequency density times class width. So if I want to work out the frequency here from 0 to 10, it's going to be frequency density, which is 2, times class width, which is 10. 2 times 10, 20. For this one, it's going to be 3.6 times 5, which is 18. 3 times 15, 45. And then 2.6 times 20, 52. And then sometimes it tells you the total number of students, like here, 135 students. We need to make sure that our frequencies add up to 135. So 18 add 52 is 70. Add 20 is 90. Add 45 is 135. So it works. So I know that that's most likely going to be correct. So that's how you use a histogram to complete a table, type 2. Let's have a look at this one. So this is a type 3 where you have an incomplete table, because we're missing some values here, and an incomplete histogram, because we're missing some bars here. And what we need to do is use the information in the histogram to complete the table, and use the table to complete the histogram. So the first thing that we're going to do is add our two columns on, so class width and frequency density. Now the one thing to note on this is in your histogram, on your y-axis for the frequency density, there is currently no scale. So we need to figure out what that scale is as well. So let's fill in on the table what we can. So at the moment, we know that the time intervals are here. So we can work out the class width. So 10 take away 0 is 10. 15 take away 10, 5, 15, 20, and 10. Okay, now frequency density is equal to frequency divided by class width. So we can work out some of these frequency densities. So we can work out this one, because frequency density is frequency 20 divided by class width 10. So that's 2. This one we don't know the frequency, so we can't work it out for row 2 or row 3 yet. Row 4 will be 62 divided by 20, which is 31, and 23 divided by 10, 2.3. So this should be 3.1. Okay, now we've done all we can by just looking at the table. So now we need to look at what we have in the histogram. Now we have 3 bars in the histogram that are drawn for us. We have the bar going from 0 to 10, that's this one. We have the bar going from 10 to 15, which is this one. And we have the bar going from 15 to 30, which is this one. Now if you look at the 3 rows, can you see row 2 and row 3 are incomplete? However, row 1 is complete. So this is the row that's going to help us to work out the scale of the y-axis and continue on with the question. So according to row 1, our frequency density must be 2. And the height of this is here. So this is the frequency density. That this value here must be 2. So where this mark is. So this value here must be 1. This must be 3. This must be 4. Okay, and that'll be 2.5 and 2.1 there. So now that we know the scale of the y-axis, we can now fill in the frequency densities for the bars that are given. So this bar, which stretches from 10 to 15 over here, has a frequency density of this value here, which is 3. So I can fill that in. And the bar that goes from 15 to 30 has a frequency density of 4. And then if we rearrange this formula, so frequency is equal to frequency density multiplied by class width, we can work out these missing frequencies. So this frequency here is frequency density times class width, so that's 3 times 5, so 15. And this one here is going to be 4 times 15, which is 60. Okay, and so part A, use the information in the histogram to complete the table. We have done that. Part B, use the table to complete the histograms. So this bar has already been drawn. This bar has already been drawn. This bar has already been drawn. So we need to draw the bar that goes from 30 through to 50. Now the frequency density of that is 3.1. So that would be about here. And then the final, so that's that one done. And the final bar goes from 50 through to 60 and has a height of 2.3. And that's your complete histogram. Okay, so we've now done that. And that'll be the whole question. So those are your 3 types of questions that you could get. Type 1 is the most common, then type 2, and then type 3 is the rarest. Now let's have a go at a few additional questions. So we've got this one where we've got a histogram and a teacher asked some students how much time they spent using a mobile phone 1 week. The histogram was drawn from the information. Use the histogram to complete the table. Okay, so the histogram is complete. We just need to complete the table. So what type of question is this? Well, this is going to be a type 2. Use the histogram to complete the table. So let's add in our 2 columns. So that's class width and frequency density. We can work out our class width. Half take away 0 is a half. 1 take away half is a half. 2 take away 1. 3 take away 2 is 1. 5 take away 3 is 2. And we can also fill in our frequency densities. So our frequency densities, then we know that there is 10. So this here must be 5. So every 2 little squares must be 1. So that's 6, 7, and this bit must be 8. So the frequency density here must be 8. If the frequency density here is 8, then to work out frequency, it's going to be frequency density times class width. So 8 times a half, which will give you 4. Have a look at the frequency density of the next bar from half to 1. That's 30, so that's 32, 31, and that's 32. 32 times a half will give you 16. The next one, the frequency density of 1 to 2 is exactly 30. And 30 times 1 is 30, and the answer is already there for us. So we can almost verify that we're doing this correctly. The next one, from 2 to 3, is 20, and that would be 21. 21 times 1 is 21. And then the final one goes from 3 to 5, and that has a height of 2 squares below the 5, so that must be 4. 4 times 2 gives you 8. So we've just completed the table using the histogram. That will be worth 2 marks. Let's have a look at this one. So the histogram gives information about the weight of some potatoes. The shaded bar represents 20 potatoes. Work out how many of the potatoes weigh 30 grams or less. Alright, so we have a complete histogram here, but we don't have a table. So we need to produce a table. So in our table, we will have our weight of potatoes as one column. Then we'll have frequency, class width, and frequency density. So the weights of our potatoes are going to go from 0 to 30 for the first one, then 30 to 40, then 40 to 45, 45 to 55, and then 55 through to 100. Okay, the frequencies we don't know apart from the shaded bar represents 20 potatoes. So the 20 potatoes is from 40 to 45, so we are given that information already. The class widths, we can figure these out. So we have 30 take away 0, so 30. 40 take away 30 is 10. 45 take away 40 is 5. 55 take away 45 is 10, and 100 take away 55 is 45. And the frequency densities we can read off the table. So the frequency density for 0 to 30 is 1. The frequency density of 30 to 40 is 3. The frequency density of 40 to 45 is 4. So the bar that goes from 40 to 45, I'd say has a frequency density of 2.2. And then the bar that goes from 55 to 100, which is this big one, I would say that it's more than 1.5, so I'd say 1.6. And then what I would do before trying to answer any of these questions is to complete the frequency. So remember, frequency is equal to frequency density times class width. So frequency is 1 times 30, which would be 30. 3 times 10, 30. 4 times 5 is 20, so we know that's right. 22 times 10, sorry, 2.2 times 10 is 22. And 1.6 times 45 is 72. So we now know all of the frequencies. Now we can look at answering the questions. So work out how many of the potatoes weigh 30 grams or less. So 30 grams or less is everything to the left of this 30, which is just this one bar. And we've worked out that the frequency of that bar is 30. So the answer to this is 30. And what you can do is once you've worked out the frequencies, you can write the frequencies in the bars. So we know 30 to 40 is also 30. We know this one is 20, this one is 22, and this one is 72. So that's part A. Part B of the question, work out how many of the potatoes weigh more than 45 grams. So here's 45 grams. More than 45 grams of these two bars here. So it's going to be 22 plus 72, which is 94. 94 of the potatoes weigh more than 45 grams. I hope after watching this video you now feel a lot more comfortable answering questions on histograms. And for more content like this, remember to hit the subscribe button. Until next time, goodbye.